Have you ever noticed that some of the kindest people you meet are also the ones who seem most exhausted? They're the friends who always pick up your calls at 2 a.m., the family members who never say no, and the colleagues who quietly bear everyone else's burdens. But if you pay attention, if you really look into their eyes, you'll see something else hidden beneath that gentle smile. There's a quiet ache, an invisible loneliness no one else seems to notice. Kindness, we're told, is a virtue, a simple act of love that binds us to others. But kindness can also be a mask, one we learn to wear so convincingly that eventually we forget how to take it off. We wear it because we learned early that love wasn't unconditional. It came only when we said yes, when we stayed quiet, when we made ourselves easy to love. That mask may look beautiful from the outside, but the longer we wear it, the harder it becomes to breathe. The bitter truth is, behind every endless act of kindness, there's often a frightened child still desperately trying to prove their worth, hoping that by giving endlessly, they'll finally be safe. Yet, here's the truth no one ever told you. Kindness given from fear isn't kindness. It's a slow betrayal of your own heart. Because when you're always the one who gives, always the one who listens, always the one who shows up, who exactly is showing up for you? Who's standing by your side when your heart breaks silently under the weight of everyone else's expectations? So ask yourself honestly, what's truly behind that unstoppable kindness of yours? Is it strength, or is it something else entirely? Something deeper, something wounded, something that won't let you rest until you finally look it in the eyes? When you were young, perhaps you clearly remember moments of carefully studying your parents' faces, trying to guess whether it was safe to show your feelings. Maybe one afternoon, you ran home excited to share something important. But as you stepped inside, you sensed tension in the air, a heaviness that made you instantly shrink back. You quickly swallowed your enthusiasm, deciding your emotions were inconvenient, even troublesome. Gradually, you learned not to express yourself openly. Instead, you became skillful at sensing what others felt and adapting your own emotions to fit comfortably around theirs. Over time, this hyper-awareness evolved into your way of navigating relationships. You mastered the art of managing everyone else's emotional comfort, convinced that if you could anticipate their needs and avoid causing any discomfort, you'd maintain your safety and sense of belonging. Your natural empathy turned into an exhausting vigilance, always on alert, always attuned, never fully at rest. Without fully realizing it, you built your identity around being the helper, the caregiver, the reliable one, the person others depended on. Each act of kindness, each time you prioritized someone else's feelings, reinforced a deep-seated belief: I must never disappoint or inconvenience anyone. If I do, I'll lose their affection and acceptance. Kindness was no longer a freely given choice. It became a quiet compulsion, a relentless effort to maintain harmony at your own expense. Imagine yourself as a devoted mail carrier who tirelessly delivers letters of warmth, support, and compassion to everyone you know. Day after day, you walk your route diligently, offering emotional nourishment to others. Yet, every evening, you return home to an empty mailbox, realizing nobody sends letters your way. Or perhaps you're like a gardener who lovingly waters every plant in sight, carefully nurturing growth and bloom in the gardens around you, while your own garden remains parched and overlooked, slowly fading into neglect. This chronic state of emotional caretaking isn't merely generosity. It's a symptom of deep anxiety, a fear-driven attempt to control your environment. You hold tightly to kindness because you fear what might happen if you loosen your grip. Saying no, setting boundaries, or expressing needs feels profoundly dangerous. Every refusal seems to risk rejection. Every boundary threatens abandonment. So you continue to give, not from abundance, but from fear. And here's the hardest truth you must confront. Kindness that springs from fear is not kindness at all. It's self-neglect disguised as generosity. It silently chips away at your sense of self-worth until, eventually, there's nothing left. Each time you prioritize another person's comfort above your own emotional truth, you quietly tell yourself, my feelings aren't important. My needs don't matter. Take an honest look inside yourself now. How many times have you pushed aside your own needs to keep peace or please someone else? How many times have you said yes when your heart desperately needed you to say no? What happens when the child who learned to silence their own feelings grows into an adult who no longer remembers how to hear their own inner voice? If you continue down this path, holding everyone else up while your own emotional foundation crumbles beneath you, what will ultimately remain of the person you were always meant to become? As an adult, perhaps you find yourself constantly saying yes, even when your heart aches to say no. You automatically prioritize others' needs above your own, volunteering your energy and attention even when you're already stretched thin. When a friend calls late at night, desperate for comfort, you pick up instantly despite your exhaustion. You agree to help colleagues even if your workload is already overwhelming. Setting aside your own needs feels instinctive because choosing yourself first triggers immediate guilt, as though you've done something inherently wrong. This guilt is no accident. It's the ghost of your inner child, who still believes love and acceptance only come from being useful, accommodating, and unfailingly kind. This child learned early that to remain safe, to remain lovable, meant putting aside their own pain, desires, and even identity. And so, without realizing it, your adult life becomes a continuous effort to validate that wounded child's fears. If I stop giving, if I dare assert myself, I will no longer be worthy. But these patterns come at a profound cost. You constantly shoulder burdens that don't belong to you, absorbing the emotions, anxieties, and responsibilities of everyone around you. You're the reliable one, the dependable one, the friend everyone leans on. On the surface, it seems noble, but beneath, you're carrying invisible loads heavier than you were ever meant to bear. Burnout and deep internal exhaustion are regular visitors. You wake up drained, wondering why your emotional tank is perpetually empty. You've learned to manage your fatigue quietly, never sharing your struggles openly. Instead, you double down, giving even more to others, convinced that your own pain isn't significant enough to acknowledge. Your body quietly protests through tension headaches, sleepless nights, or an ever-present tightness in your chest. Your mind races, always worrying about whether you've done enough, given enough, pleased enough. Carl Jung described this phenomenon through the idea of the shadow, the unacknowledged parts of our psyche that we hide because they've been deemed unacceptable. Your inner child, the vulnerable, authentic part of you that was silenced, is precisely this shadow. Each time you deny your own needs to please someone else, your shadow grows darker, stronger, silently demanding attention from within. Alice Miller explained clearly that children who learn to suppress their true feelings eventually lose touch with their inner world. They grow into adults who no longer know how to distinguish between what they genuinely desire and what they've been conditioned to want. You've become so skilled at intuiting what others feel and need that you've completely lost sight of your own internal compass. You function from a sense of duty rather than authenticity, convinced your true self is unacceptable, inconvenient, and unlovable. Consider this. You've become the emotional custodian for everyone around you. You are continuously cleaning up emotional messes, soothing pain, managing tensions, and absorbing negativity to maintain peace. But each evening, after tirelessly tidying up everyone else's emotional landscapes, you turn inward and realize that your own internal space has been neglected for years. Dust gathers on your unmet needs. Clutter piles high in the corners of your heart. Your inner child sits silently in the dark, waiting for you to finally notice them. You've forgotten that child's voice, forgotten how to hear their longing to be loved unconditionally. not for what they do, but simply for who they are. Your compulsive kindness isn't selflessness, it's a quiet but dangerous form of self-abandonment. Every time you say yes from fear instead of genuine willingness, you deepen the wound within. You've spent years chasing validation, unknowingly turning your kindness into chains that bind you. Your generosity, once your proudest trait, now feels like an obligation you can't escape. Have you ever paused long enough to ask yourself, why am I willing to sacrifice everything just to feel worthy? You were never meant to carry this much emotional weight. You weren't built to endure such relentless self-neglect. Kindness should enrich your life, not hollow it out. And now, a deeper question emerges. What if the kindness you've long viewed as your greatest strength is actually an unmistakable symptom of a wound you've never fully healed? What if your constant willingness to please others isn't proof of your goodness, but evidence that your inner child is still waiting, longing, desperately hoping that someone will finally choose them? Healing the wounds you've carried for so long is completely within your reach. The kindness you've always admired, real, authentic kindness, doesn't require you to erase yourself. It includes you fully. You've spent your life carefully holding a lantern for everyone else, illuminating their paths and warming their spirits. Perhaps it's finally time you turned inward and gently relit the fire within yourself. The first step on this healing journey isn't complicated, but it may be challenging. It starts with the courageous willingness to look inward, to see clearly the child you've been quietly neglecting, the child inside who still waits to be seen, comforted, and truly accepted. Understand that your constant giving, your endless caretaking, has been driven by this child's unspoken fears of abandonment. Recognizing this truth is the essential first move toward reclaiming yourself. Healing doesn't require you to abandon kindness. It simply asks you to redirect it, to finally allow the compassion you've shown others to also touch your own heart. To heal is to realize that you deserve the same tenderness and care you've tirelessly offered to everyone else. It's about reconnecting with your neglected inner child, embracing them without judgment, without conditions. They need you now, more than anyone else ever could. Imagine a garden you've watered faithfully, except for one small patch at the center, your own. Over time, that patch has withered, not from lack of potential, but from lack of attention. True healing is watering that inner garden again, allowing it to bloom beautifully alongside the others you've cared for. This simple shift changes everything. Your kindness becomes genuine and fulfilling, not driven by fear, but by authentic generosity. So ask yourself honestly, are you finally ready to remove the mask of endless accommodation and allow the world to see your true face? The face you've hidden so carefully behind perpetual kindness? Are you brave enough to acknowledge your own needs, to honor your own emotions, to truly be yourself, even if it risks disappointing others? If you've ever felt lost beneath the weight of your own kindness, you're not alone. Stay here. Share your story. Together we can redefine kindness, not as silent self-sacrifice, but as a heartfelt offering from a place of wholeness. Because kindness is never about erasing yourself. It's about embracing your complete, authentic self. And let me leave you with this thought. What would your life look like if kindness no longer felt like a heavy obligation, but a joyful expression of your truest self? Are you ready to find out?